Hi guys, welcome to Hoops Junction. Today we're talking about the 6 NBA shooting secrets that will get you knocking down more jumpers and shooting like the professionals, alright? Number one, and this is key for anybody that's a shooter or trying to become a better shooter. The fingers. Remember that movie Bring It On? It was like, have the spirit fingers? You have the spirit fingers as a shooter. And this is the most important thing for your fingers. These parts. These are the finger pads. These are the only parts that be touching the basketball. I know certain other players, they put their palm on the ball like a Stephen Curry. Sometimes puts his palm on the ball. You're not Stephen Curry. You haven't been shooting for 20 years. Most of the professionals, they use even Curry, most of the time he uses his finger pads. Make sure when you catch the ball, you're catching the ball with your finger pads. All times. Always keep your finger pads on the ball. Most important part. Because when you catch the ball with the finger pads, the ball feels light. It's not as heavy, and you have a lot more leeway when you're shooting the jumper. You see what I'm saying? It's much easier, and it's the best way. It's the proven method. The finger pads on the ball, the best way. Don't put your palms on the ball. Don't put like one thumb or all finger pads on your shooting hand and your guide hand. And that leads me to number 2. Your guide hand. Always keep your guide hand straight up and down. So like your guide hand is not supposed to influence your shot. Guide hands are supposed to be straight. So when you shoot the basketball like this, and you do your release, or how some people release like this or like that, guide hand stays straight up and down. If you do like this with your guide hand when you're releasing, sometimes it can make for like your shot to go straight, like not at a high arc. I find that when you keep your guide hand straight up and down when you're shooting, like that, your guide hand, and you shoot, it just like your hand, the ball is only influenced by this hand only, and it goes straight up and down, so you get a higher arc. Keep that guide hand straight up and down, and keep your guide hand close to your shot hand. So like today, it's kind of weird. Everybody shoots like they're trying to just shoot like kind of a one hand. Back in the day, and today, all the best shooters, but most shooters don't do this. They keep their guide hand and their shooting hand together. So when you're shooting the basketball, keep them close together, but the guide hand stays straight up and down. Don't let it bend. Don't let the thumb influence the shot. Straight up and down. Just straight up and down. That's going to improve your shot tremendously. You're gonna knock down a lot of jumpers. You're going to get higher arc. And if you keep it close together next to your shooting hand, it's going to be like a one-motion shot. So it's going to be much better. Stephen Curry does it at a rapid rate. He's a rapid fire with it. Klay Thompson's another one. You see his guide hand stays close. See what I'm saying? Like Kevin Durant, his guide hand stays close most of the time, but sometimes he does the one hand thing, and sometimes that's why his shots fall flat. So remember, keep the guide hand close to your shooting hand, and also keep the guide hand straight up and down. Straight up and down. Remember that. Number 3, you want to turn, and this is a big proponent of pro shot shooting system, and this is what I use for my shooting. So all these tips I'm getting, you could visit focusshooter.com and also follow up on some of these. But some of them are influenced from pro shot, and then some of them are just my own basic tips. Number 3, you want to turn. Pro shot only says to turn. Turning means you kind of turn your feet just a little bit, or your shooting shoulder, you square it up with the basket. Back in the day, they used to always tell us shoot squared up, like shoot like straight up and down. And when you do that, there's a lot of tension in your body, and it sucks. You know what I'm saying? You don't feel right shooting the ball. If you notice, all the best shooters, they kind of turn just a little bit. They turn maybe at, I want to say 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or even 9 o'clock. Some people turn at 9 o'clock a little bit, 10:30, if you're out late or whatever. Turn a little bit. Just turn. If you're a left-handed shooter, turn a little bit to your right. If you're a right-handed shooter, turn a little bit to your left. This means that, what this does is, this allows your elbow, your wrist, your shoulder, everything to be facing the basket. So straight up and down facing the basket. Straight up and down facing the basket, you're like at a straight line. Straight line, okay? So that's number 1. That's key. Turn just a little bit. Next thing, tip number 4, your feet. Your feet are important. You never want to shoot a jumper flat-footed. Don't shoot jumpers flat-footed. Your shot's going to be flat. You're not going to have like a rhythm. You're not going to have a rhythm when you're shooting. Always, 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 always stay on the balls of your feet. When you're defending, running, whatever, like just running on the balls of your feet, It makes you run faster shooting. It gives you a little bit more bounce. Always on the balls of your feet. And what you want to do when you shoot is you want to jump a little bit forward. So whatever spot you're shooting from, don't jump straight up and down, which is the conventional wisdom. You want to jump just a little bit forward. So like if you're shooting a shot, you want to jump forward maybe 3 inches or 4 inches, just so you can get like a natural sway. A sway is going to help you get more arc on your shot. So you definitely want to stay on the balls of your feet and jump forward and knock down the jumper. Trust me, as soon as you start jumping just a little bit forward, and people, you do it naturally, but when you start consciously doing it purposely, you'll see that your shots aren't going to fall flat anymore. The most misses you'll get are like back of the rim misses, and they'll probably fall back in the hoop. So if you're falling short, it's because you're not swaying forward, you're not jumping a little bit forward, or you're not on the balls of your feet. You got to be on the balls of your feet, because if you're not, you're killing your shot, because flat-footed jump shooters are awful. Like, they're the worst. And you see them everywhere. All the worst shooters in the NBA are flat-footed jump shooters. So definitely balls of your feet. Remember, that's key. Number 5, finger release. Pick a finger or fingers that you want to release with. So you can release like this. Some people do it this way. Some people release like this with their middle, Dirk Nowitzki, like the Wolfpack, ow, and WO. And then some people release with the 1 finger, or some people do 4 fingers down. Pick one and be consistent with it. Me personally, I do the index finger release. This is the release that Kobe uses. This is the release that Michael Jordan used when he was playing. You know why? Because your index finger is the straightest finger on your hand. So when you shoot with your index finger, your last finger influences the ball the most, which means that your ball's going to go straight. And you want the ball to go straight. You don't want to go sideways or whatever the case is. You want it to go straight. Curry does a 4-finger down release, but if you kind of look at his 4-finger down release, his last finger that touches the ball is kind of the index finger. Everybody has a different finger release. Whatever is more comfortable with you, just be consistent with it. Be consistent with it. And number 6, I think, is an underrated tip. Nobody really taught this to me. I just kind of found this on my own. As a matter of fact, you know, I was listening to Kenny the Jet Smith, or I think Klay Thompson at the time, and they said they like to get their fingers in the seam of the ball. If you don't know what the seam of the ball is, that's that black. So you know, like, you have the ball, it's all orange and it has all the black lacing in it. That's the seam. If you get your fingers in the seam of the basketball, especially the fingers that you're releasing with, you're going to knock down the shot, like, I want to say 85 to 90% of the time. It's potent. Especially, this is good for like bad free throw shooters. If you're shooting free throws and you don't have your finger in the seam of the ball, that's what's hurting you. When you have your fingers in the seam of the ball, it gives you a lot better grip, a lot better hold, and when you release, it's going to feel like you have so much control of the ball. It's a control thing. I don't know what it is. When you get your fingers in the seam of the basketball, even if you catch and shoot, you have a little time to make your fingers get in that seam. Get it in the seam, and you'll see that once you release, it feels much better, and you're going to knock down a ton more shots. So those are my 6 tips. You know what I'm saying? Your finger pads, guide hand, turning. You want to make sure that your balls of your feet jumping forward a little bit. You want to do a finger release, consistent finger release, and get in your hands in that seam. Get your fingers in that seam, not hands, finger pads. Remember, get your finger pads in the seam, and you're going to be knocking down a lot more jumpers. If you have any other tips for shooting, let me know. Let me know if these tips work for you. If they don't work for you, let me know your experience. I'm really excited to hear this. I'm glad to share this with you, and I want you guys to go out and knock a ton more jumpers down. This is Vlad from Hoops Junction, where hoops meets hoopla. Peace.